In this session, we're going to be going through a case study where our financial advisor, Jack Oineza, has managed to help a couple in their 50s save $16,000 a year in tax and also add more than $200,000 to their retirement benefit. So we'll go through a little bit about the client scenario and the strategies that Jack put in place to enable the clients to reach this outcome. That being said, this webinar is going to be recorded, and that way we can also share this after the fact. The benefit of you joining us here live is you are able to ask questions and we're able to answer them live throughout the duration of this webinar. If you are looking to raise a question, there should be a Q&A function available there, and you can look to ask questions here in this Q&A function here throughout. And what we'll do is we will stop at logical points throughout the session to enable them to be answered as well. A little bit about our financial advisor. Jack is here with us, who's going to be navigating through this scenario. For the past 24 years, Jack's dedicated himself to understanding the intricate connections between a person's personality, feelings, and their financial decisions. His career path has spanned both independent financial advice and within the banking sector as well, providing him with a wealth of experience in guiding clients throughout their important goals and giving them the confidence to stay on track. Jack's committed to continuous learning and staying curious, believing that sharing life experience is a powerful tool for growth. Jack is a 2016 CEO Award winner and Financial Advisor of the Year, and he's worked with a diverse range of clients from individuals to high net worth. And we're very lucky to have him go through this client scenario with us today. So look, without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Jack. He's going to navigate through the remainder of the scenario. Thank you, Jack.
Morning, everyone. Thanks, Johnny. Hopefully everyone had a good weekend. First up the bat, Monday. Appreciate you joining us for the first day of the week. So hopefully it won't take too much of your time. Hopefully you get some value add to this particular scenario of our clients. It's a live scenario we've gone through. These particular clients, I've actually seen them, Johnny, probably 3 months ago or so. They're actually now in the implementation process stage, but we'll go through that, how that looks. So as it shows there, I won't say the name of the client for privacy reasons, but these clients are 50 years of age, working good jobs, full-time jobs, decent incomes, fairly good expenses in their budgeting side of things. They paid up their home loan quite good, actually, in the last 15 years or so. So I've seen them 3 months ago, as mentioned, and they're looking to do. The conversation started is really they're not really sure what to do in the next 10 years. So they're thinking, what do we do next? We work hard, we paid off some of our debt. What's our next steps, right? So I'm just going to go to the next slide there. If I can work it out. Oops, too far. There you go. Okay. So some of the objectives there, we've spent a lot of time actually discussing what their key goals are, right? And sometimes when life's busy, you forget what they are, right? You're working, paying off the debts, expenses, and what have you. So we've not done a little bit more and say, okay, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to hit? So we've established a 10-year time frame. Okay, as you can see there, they want to retire at 60. Okay. Next conversation is, what does that look like? What do you want to do? So we started to talk about holidays, playing golf and all those things. And I asked them, do you know how much would that be? And most people say, actually don't know. I haven't really thought about it yet. So we took a step back and started to look at their cash flow, Johnny. So by doing that, really looking at, I wouldn't say budget in a sense, but looking at really what their day-to-day would look like and what they would look like moving forward, what they like to spend. That's why you've got an odd number there of 90,000. Actually, it's actually about 88,000, the numbers we worked out. So once we've done that, we iron out what their key goals are, match it what their cash would look like. We start to now build, okay, how do we get there? What does that really look like? Okay. So we understand they've got some superannuation. They also wanted to, hey, Jack, I'm not too sure if our super is doing what it's supposed to do, or is it going to be enough for us? Those are the questions we had to look at. Okay. And they also wanted to make sure, we've got some debts, Jack. We want to make sure that we adequately insured ourselves just in case something does happen, to protect our income and lifestyle. It's making sure that what we build is adequately appropriate for our needs as well. So they also wanted to review the insurances as well as part of that conversation. Right? Any questions on that piece, just in case there's anything that pops up, Johnny?
No questions so far, Jack. One thing I did want to elaborate on is
Sure.
what's the conversation like when you start to talk about these objectives? Because I feel a lot of clients don't actually really consider what their needs are, as well as their, like, everybody talks about, oh, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that, but there's a lot of needs that people have that they don't consider within their lifestyle expenses. I'll give you an example: replacing white goods every 5 to 10 years, or buying a new car every 7 to 10 years, something along those lines. How does that conversation go?
Correct. So those things we talked about, the cars. So, and this particular couple, they're not too fast. They want just a comfortable lifestyle. There's no right or wrong when you look at these things, Johnny. And each family and each couple, each goal is going to be different. But they just want to, they have this concern that they're not going to have enough when they want to retire. That's the key thing. But non-negotiable was one of the things that the wife said, non-negotiable, Jack. I want to go on a holiday biannually because that's what we're accustomed to. So if we can have that, that's one of our key goals. Uh, it's something that tick over the box. Given there's some of the things we have to let go as a result of those things, they're willing to compromise that. So I guess having that open discussion with the key goals really helps to really drive down what this really looks like. So whether it's 90,000 or 100,000, I'll just quickly explain. Actually, the husband did some homework before they went to see me. He said, Jack, I was looking at this website and it said, the couple can retire on $57,000 versus 120. I said, that's statistically. I said, what do you guys want at the end of the day? So once I understood that it's built for them, not because what the statistics says, then we slowly to build, okay, we can get to where we need to be. Right? Good. Thanks, Johnny. Let's go to the next slide if hopefully got that. So high level strategies, what do we do? How to get there? So our key goals is retire in 10 years at age 60. We want 90,000. Make sure the superannuation is looked after. Make sure that they're adequately protected as well. And one of the key goals there, it's not on here, is how to pay the debt as fast as they can as well. Okay. So some of the key things we wanted to make sure is first is look at the superannuation. Okay. Superannuation is, as most people know, is a uh, tax structure that we be able to help our clients navigate to grow their wealth. Okay, so if you've heard the term salary sacrifice, or people call it salary packaging, however you want to call it, but in the terms of superannuation, it's called salary sacrifice. In essence, salary sacrifice is putting money to your super fund before the tax man gets his cut. Right. So, for example, you're earning 100,000. Your tax is 30 cents in a dollar, 32% in a dollar. Now, what you're saying to the ATO is, well, I'm going to put $10,000 to the super fund, as opposed to getting taxed to your marginal tax rate, your income tax rate. It's going to tax at 15% flat rate. Okay, it's a flat rate. So in essence, what you're doing is twofold. You're reducing your tax and you're growing your super fund at the same token. Okay. Now, disadvantage is that if you put money into super, it's obviously you can't access it until retirement. Okay. And then it can also reduce your take home pay as well. So that's why we built the cash flow to see what it really looks like if you put money into super. Okay. I'll stop right there just in case any questions. I'm going too fast.
Sorry, Jack, no questions at the moment. One thing I did want to elaborate on is how important is the cash flow discussion? Because I feel a lot of people, speaking to clients in general, I feel a lot of people salary sacrifice on their own. not knowing on how effective it is or how much to salary sacrifice, how important is that cash flow analysis to look at both pre and post any investment, whether it be salary sacrifice, negative gearing, or regular investment into any investment product?
Good point. It's quite critically important. I actually say this to moms and dads, even business owners, even high net worth individuals. That's your baseline to start with, because we need to understand that. Right now, it's a boring conversation. I get it, but once you get that right, that's everything can be a puzzle. How do we put money to super? Do we go on holidays? Do we put money to the business? Do we invest it? Do we reduce tax? So all that revolves to the cash flow. So go to your point is if you put money to super, your take home pay goes down, right? As a result. But at the same time, how does that impact your overall lifestyle expenses? So that triggers a lot of those things. So we need to get to see what that really looks like. By doing that, we actually what's called a stress test. Okay, a stress test is to see, okay, if we is this a current cash flow if we build salary sacrifice or put money to business or buy investment property, whatever the case must be, what does that look like in general, right? Now, if it becomes going backwards, obviously not a good strategy. So it's always revolves to that cash flow. Johnny, good question. Oh, I'll move on to the next one. Superannuation. So a lot of people obviously don't look at their superannuation detail. They'll get the statement. Oh, it's done 70%. Oh, this is the fees, and that's all they do, which is the general public. Okay, but our job is to make sure. Okay, oh, how is it invested? What are the benefits that these my clients are getting? What are the type of insurances that being offered in that particular fund? Right? What else can we do with it? So it helps them grow over a period of time as well. Okay, so that's number two. Any questions on that? Okay. Number three is taking appropriate covers in place, such as, life cover, total permanent disability, trauma, income protection, the biggest one. Another misconception about income protection that most people ask is, does it cover my, if I lose my job, Jack, or if I become redundant? The answer is no. Okay? Purely the reason for that is most people, if they've lost your job, you're able to find another job somewhere else if you are able-bodied person, right? Or you're not sick or injured. Now, biggest thing is if you're not able to earn an income due to illness or injury, that takes away your ability to provide for your family, pay the bills, pay the mortgage, the list goes on. So it's critically important to cover yourself, right? So we built this for this particular client. Make sure it's important for them. Whilst they continue to build assets, they want to make sure they are adequately protected as well. Right? Now, the conversation with insurance, I'll summarize it because each individual is going to be different. The question that these clients pose, Jack, okay, well, we do want to cover ourselves, but what are the costs? It could be quite high because given their age, Johnny, right? So conversations, again, going back to the cash flow, do we have some of these covers to pay by a super fund? Or do we have to pay some of it outside pocket? That's the balance that I'm talking about. Okay, well, is it if it's $5,000? Do we have super to pay? What does that look like? It might deplete the balance as well. That's why we have contributions to supplement that as well. Okay, and also the cash flow. If it's like $2,000, what does that look like on their overall budget as well? So it's important to balance those two roles. Make sure they're adequately protected as well. Okay. Number four is probably the big one. Okay. Now, I've looked at the modeling in this particular scenario. So as the strategy is to put money to super, let it grow, review the super, reduce their ongoing expenses in the super fund. It wasn't enough, Johnny, to get in the next 10 years. By simply putting money into super as much as we can within their budget, within their tax, we're able to save, at least $8,000 by doing that, which is a good tax savings, right? Now, there's still a gap in 10 years. We're still not going to get there to get to their 90,000 per annum. So some of the things we can do is investing in property to use the equity in their house, right? Now, again, this goes back to the question you asked earlier. What does that look like if we take on more debt? Yes, there's going to be rental income. There's going to be expenses on this particular property. I've done the numbers for that. Now, being expert in over holistic planning and comprehensive, I'm not gonna know every single thing, Johnny. So what I've actually engaged a mortgage broker. Mr. Broker, this is what I'm looking at. Can you look at a borrowing capacity for me? Once I've got the borrowing capacity, I built that in a financial plan on their cash flow and their tax. How does it look over a period of time for the next 10 years to invest? So it goes in hand in hand. You need other professionals as well to do those things. Okay?
And I think this is an important distinction as well, Jack, because a lot of people will think, the average person will think, well, I'm age 50, I'm 10 years from retirement. Why am I taking on more debt? But this type of debt is actually an effective debt. It's what some people might call good debt or smart debt because it's producing you an income later on in life. How important is it to work with a mortgage broker to effectively take on that smart debt or good debt?
Correct. It's all about educating the client, engaging the appropriate professionals where they are needed, right? In this particular scenario, whilst I understand how investing for property or investing for good debt, as they call it, non-deductible debt, in other words, I still need to engage a professional or mortgage broker to say, hey, this is what I'm looking at. Can you see what that looks like for finance perspective? My job now, once I get the borrowing capacity, whatever that, actually the borrowing capacity for these couples is actually quite high, right? But I didn't go to the amount that their borrowing capacity is. The reason for that is because I did the analysis. If I borrow that much, what does it look like in their lifestyle and their cash flow? Again, goes back to their cash flow, right? So by doing that, to work collectively with the mortgage broker and matching with their overall financial plan, it kind of works out a proper strategy moving forward for the next 10 years. Now, I've actually modeled it to see what it looks like without tax advantages. As people might be hearing, negative gearing, tax advantage, great, they are great. But also model a scenario, if there is no tax advantage in this particular, if they were to invest, what does it look like? How it impacts their cash flow, right? Obviously, we all want to save tax. I do, right? But the same token, that's not the goal. The goal is to get to their retirement. That's an outcome we all want to achieve. We're using property, we're using superannuation, we're using cash flow, we're using tax savings is a means to get to that end goal, which is a comfortable retirement. Okay. So a stress test, I've taken out tax advantages to see what it looks like if they were to take on that debt. Because obviously this particular couple, they don't know what that really looks like. And once they've seen it, they're going to be okay and able to reach their particular goal in 10 years. Guess what? Open arms. They didn't realize we should have done this earlier, you know? So I think it's all about educating the clients and see where they are today and kind of funnel and see this is what it could look like if we make these steps now. It's by beats. And obviously we engage the right professionals as well if we need to.
And for the clients as well, I feel a lot of people, especially at that age, they'd be sitting on this untapped gold mine of equity that's sitting in their principal place of residence.
Correct.
They wouldn't realize that they have access to all this equity to be able to invest in income and capital growth producing assets as well.
Correct, exactly. And obviously property is something that most people talk about. It so happened this is the asset class that I've used purely because of the time frame we want to get to, 10 years. Now, if, for example, they're retiring in 5 years, is property the proper investment solution? Probably not, because given a short time frame, right? In this particular scenario, I'm able to put a strategy in the next 10 years that's able to pay all their debts at retirement and still able to retire comfortably, which I'll show later on the next slide. Right? I'll stop right there and just to see if there's any questions that pop up.
No questions so far, Jack.
Okay, so we'll keep going. So I know we're pressed for time. Super review. I've talked about the super review before. Again, one of the key things we looked at, we compare the fees, the management costs, the options available for the particular member. So at Rika Capital, we don't work for any institution. We don't work for a bank. We don't work for a super fund. We don't work for an insurance company. We work for our clients. The client pay us to do that work, and that is it. Client's best interest comes first and foremost. So when we look at options, we compare what the benefits and risk for a particular fund, and we make a recommendation accordingly, based obviously on the investment profile that the clients are comfortable with. Okay?
I think that's important to note as well, Jack, because a lot of employees, they'll just go with whatever super fund they've inherited from their employer, whether it be an industry super fund or a corporate superannuation plan, and they'll just inherit whichever. And a couple of things, it might not be the right super fund for them, and they might not be invested in a manner which is best for them as well. Because I'll give you an example. If you're young, you might typically go for something a little bit more aggressive in terms of risk versus return. And then if you're a little bit older, you might want to be more conservative because you have less time frame to ride out the volatility. So there's a lot of important connotations that people need to understand, especially with their superannuation there as well.
Absolutely. You mentioned it there. There's so many options there. You've got industry funds that talk about it in the news, retail funds, self-managed super fund. Is that right for me, Jack? So all those things we have to navigate and see what's going to be appropriate for the particular client. Now, another barbecue conversation that comes up is, Jack, oh, can I invest in property in self-managed super fund? Right? The answer to that is really let's see if it's going to be appropriate for you. Right? So that's our job, is to put a strategy and educate you accordingly and see what's going to be appropriate. Well, there's no preference. I don't have a preference whether it's self-managed fund, industry fund, retail fund. My preference is what's appropriate for the client at the end of the day. Okay, good. Almost the next one. So just to finish off on some of the strategies we put in place, if you look at the top left-hand corner, which is 815,000, that's the trajectory if they do nothing in their super fund as it stands today. So you might say it's not too bad, 815,000, they'll get to 860, right? Now, on the right-hand side, top right-hand side corner, where it says, okay, they're going to leave on $90,000. How long does that last? It says there about 9 years. Client says, well, that's not going to be enough, is it? Hence, on the bottom left-hand corner, where it's got 1 million, this shows by simply putting money into super and obviously tax and fees to reduce as well, they get to $1 million. That's $200,000 difference by simply adding little bits and pieces to your super fund. And at the same token, they reduce their tax. They reduce their tax on the salary sacrifice and about $8,000 combined, plus the negative gearing effects over property, which is about $16,000 all up. So that $16,000 difference, we can put a strategy. It's on the plan, is to reduce the debt, invest it more, holiday, whatever the case may be. So it gives them that option as well. They're still growing their super and they're building their wealth at the same token, right? I'll stop right there before I finish up on the last one. It can get confusing.
No question so far, Jack. But I just wanted to sort of reiterate, like this is the real benefit that looking at these projections and conducting a cash
Correct.
flow analysis can have, and give you a good understanding on what does my retirement look like.
Correct. Because most people don't look at it this way until you, again, it's our job to paint a picture. This is where you are. This is what it would look like if we make changes now. Okay, if we implement those right strategies in place. Okay. Now, on the bottom right-hand side corner, if you can see, it's gone from 1 million to 1.3. You might be thinking what's happened there. Okay. The pure reason there, we bought the property in today, we sold it in 10 years at their retirement. And we paid capital gains tax and things like that, pay the debt. They're debt-free at retirement and put some more money into super. Guess what happens? They end up with about 1.3. The funds would last, I can't see the last till about
83.
what's that? 83, as opposed to lasting their funds at 79. Is it 79? Sorry, at 71. Sorry, as it stands. So their retirement now has what? It's grown by 800,000 or really 500,000, and they've extended more of their retirement until 83, which is what 13 years further. Client said to me, "Oh, should have done it a while back. It's always the case. Should have done this a while back. But anyhow, life's not a straight line. Everyone's busy, like I said. It's all about educating the client and see what we can do. Put appropriate strategies in place. Engaging the right professional as well. In this case, now I have to engage the accountant because it's their first time investing in property. Right? Appreciate your time, everyone that's listening in. I'll hand it over to Johnny if there's any more questions.
Very good. Yeah, thanks so much, Jack. I think it's important to note here that it's always better late than never. Uh, you know, I understand you might be a little bit older. However, that being said, you can still put in place strategies that will have a beneficial impact on a client scenario. One thing that we didn't cover off in a little bit more depth was the insurance strategies that you put in place for the clients, Jack.
Yeah, so this was what I was saying before, because we had insurance, life, disability, income protection, and trauma. And obviously, I had to look at the cash flow to see where I can put those premiums efficiently to balance those two worlds.
Mhm.
Obviously, we want to protect our clients more efficiently, but cost is also something we need to be conscious of. So the balance of those two worlds. So the key thing there is really just to make sure that they pay their mortgage, they have bills to pay, and ongoing expenses as well.
Yeah. Look, I feel that insurance is very similar to superannuation because a lot of people they will inherit an insurance policy via their industry or corporate super fund, or they might have a retail policy that they've rung up over the phone and they've just purchased. And I really feel that there's a difference between just inheriting insurance and finding one that's fit for purpose. And a lot of people think that insurance is expensive. Uh, and for that reason, I really feel that you need to speak to a financial advisor because there are options that you can put in place that are available to reduce the workload on your cash flow as well. So yeah, really,
Spot
really
on.
important.
Yeah, spot on, because some of those insurances, like you said, that's been given to them as a default. And most people don't realize as you age, actually those covers reduce,
Mhm.
right? And there's been the newspapers and ABC and current affair. You hear stories, oh, the wife thought that she's got a life insurance from the husband, but actually it's gone down to zero because over the years, they don't know. So it is important to have, like I said, each individual will be tailor made and see what the options are available.
Awesome. Well done. So look, thank you everybody for attending. We've come to the end of the webinar. I do want to raise this important disclaimer. All the content that we've gone through in this session is general in nature. It is a webinar where we go through a specific scenario. It does not tailor to anyone's specific needs, apart from maybe the clients that Jack has gone through here. If you are looking for specific financial advice for yourself, your clients, your friends, your family, I strongly encourage you to speak to a financial advisor. Jack is available if you are looking for an initial consultation, which will be complimentary. You'll go through your needs, goals, and wants as well, and then look to tailor a specific set of advice strategies that are set for your needs as well. I am going to take a quick moment to see if there are any questions for Jack to do with this specific scenario or otherwise. If you are looking to raise any questions with Jack offline, you are more than welcome to. You can catch him at jack@rikercapital.com.au, or his phone number is there. You can also scan that QR code that will go directly to Jack's booking page, and you can schedule an initial consult with Jack. Again, that is complimentary. Jack's more than happy to have a chat with you.